The Epic Games Store has been at the center of pretty much every gaming controversy over the past few months, and now they're at it again. But this time, it's the devs themselves who are at the center of everything, and they've made things worse by lashing out at angry fans. My name's Henry Cooper, I'm here with Mr. Gareth Evans. So let's talk about what the Epic Games Store has done now, although it's not really them that's the real problem here.
There is problems for everybody concerned with this one, and this was regarding Ooblets and their developer Gumberland. Now, if you haven't heard of Ooblets, it is a independent game, combines elements Stardew Valley and Pokemon according to Wikipedia, so it's due out at the end of the year. They went exclusive with Epic, and nobody likes that idea.
Yeah, no one likes that anyway. Oh, same old story, whatever. But it's the blog post where they announced this which has got everyone upset, and I can see it because we've been more neutral on the Epic Games Store versus Steam than a lot of gaming related channels, I think, but this time the devs have really shot themselves in the foot, it seems.
It just feels like they've triggered the wrath of the community, especially on this one, because of the tone of the announcement.
So when we say devs, we mean literally the two people that work there. One's the technical person who does all the programming, and one's the writer. So the writer wrote a very sarcastic, patronizing blog post on their website explaining essentially why they did it, and whether you're upset, just get over it type of stuff. So first off, it starts off quite sarcastic anyway, but they established that Epic will give them a minimum guarantee on sales, so that sounds good. It means that they don't have to worry about money, because no matter what, Epic will pay the amount that they've projected they will earn. So okay, all right.
Yeah, it's the lump sum guarantee essentially, isn't it? It's like you will definitely get this amount of money regardless of how many you sell.
Yeah.
And for an independent developer with only two people and they're working on one game, you've got to pay the bills, and you can see people making that decision because it brings stability and security. And this is how Epic have gotten so many developers on board, because they're offering some sort of stability that they normally wouldn't get in an industry which is volatile as a nature anyway. So offering that is how they've been able to hook so many big fat fish, or little small minnows in this case.
So this is a quote here. That takes a huge burden of uncertainty off us, because now we know that no matter what, the game won't fail and we won't be forced to move back in with our parents. The investment we're getting up front from Epic will allow us to ramp up our development resources, which will lead to faster development in the long run, but might also delay our initial launch a tad because it takes some time to ramp things up, and because we won't have as much financial pressure to prematurely shove something we're not happy with out the door. So that's them saying this could make things faster because we've got more money to push things forward, but it could make things take longer because we can afford to delay and tighten things up.
That's obviously what you want as a developer: more time to be able to realize your ambitions with the game, more money, more stability. That sounds reasonable, and nobody who's ever had a struggle with money in their lives will ever say that this is not unreasonable. This is a perfectly reasonable way to be approaching and rationalizing your decision to go exclusive with Epic and taking a lot of money.
Then they move on, but carrying on with the sarcastic tone, and they start to acknowledge some of the arguments against the Epic Games Store. Epic Games Store doesn't have as many features as other stores, or it's anti-consumer to have exclusives, and again with the sarcastic tone, it's really not setting the stage very well.
Yeah, they're like preempting some sort of backlash, and it's the whole tone of the message. It's like, oh, we did that thing. The title of the thing is, we did that thing. We signed Epic.
We did the bad.
Come on, dude.
Yeah, it's very patronizing. But then where it really spiked in terms of how bullshit this is to me is when he starts talking about piracy and literally calls gamers entitled. And if there's one thing gamers love more than anything, it's being called entitled by a developer they're literally supporting on things like Patreon. So their quote is, "It's really disappointing to see folks threatening to pirate a game just because they can't get it on a game launcher they're used to." Okay, fair enough. I'm very anti-piracy. "Feeling like you're owed the product of others' work on your terms or else you'll steal it is the epitome of the word entitlement that people use to discuss immature, toxic gamers." Now, I feel like I know what he's trying to say, but what he's actually saying is targeting his consumers, the people who are literally paying to get the game made through Patreon before the Epic stuff, before that huge lump sum, and calling them immature and toxic. And he essentially doubles down and keeps going with it. "I get the appeal of wanting to seek out things to get angry about. Venting anger is cathartic and natural, but let's just have a little perspective about what we decide to get get angry about. Look at the things going on around you and ask yourself if there might be anything just a tad more worthwhile to be upset about. Here are a few suggestions. Climate change, human rights abuses, the new Twitter desktop UI, the last season of Game of Thrones, and just in case you weren't clear, those last two were jokes, please don't yell at people about them. And that's I think, a bit of foresight on what we'll get to later about what happens to him.
I think if you have to use climate change as your defensive shield against people getting angry with what you've done, I think you've fucked up already. With climate change. Like, I'm angry at me, angry at climate change, innit?
There's always something worse than what's currently going on here. It's like, oh, well, I burnt the dinner. Don't be mad about that. Be mad about climate change.
Yeah, I just shot someone, but don't be mad about that. Think about the person who shot 2 people.
There's always something worse. So they went onto their Discord channel to try and address the questions and calm the storm of angry fans.
Now, you do expect on a Discord channel that the people who've signed up for the Discord or joined the Discord channel are the supporters, the people who are excited about the game, the people who are supporting them more than anybody else in the world. And with that in mind, have that as context for what they're about to say to these people.
But nope, instead they insulted and directly attacked the supporters. We can't stress that enough. The people supporting the game being made before Epic. And naturally, they've taken a whole lot of heat from fans for this. They've said in a statement, "This whole thing has just devastated us. We've been getting thousands, if not tens of thousands, of hateful, threatening messages across every possible platform non-stop. It's especially hurtful since we've had such a positive, supportive relationship with our audience throughout development. Now, you might have continued that supportive, positive relationship if you hadn't directly insulted your fan base."
Patronized them.
On Discord. "I couldn't have guessed the scale of what it would feel like to be the target of an internet mob. I already had a lot of empathy for other targets of previous hate mobs, which is why we wanted to address that sort of thing in our announcement, but I had no idea it was this bad." You're the one who triggered the hate mob with the announcement.
Yeah.
You would have got a bit of hate for signing with the Epic Games Store, but it's this post and the tone of it and the patronizing vibe that's really upset everyone.
You would have always got criticism no matter what with taking this deal. I mean, there's always a certain amount of people who just don't like it, the idea of Epic buying up these exclusives or whatever. Okay, you can understand both sides of the story. This guy just wanted to be a bit joyful with it, a bit light with it. It didn't work out at all, and the amount of hate that they're getting because of this is just astronomical compared to what a regular announcement or something of a different studio, for example, would get.
And the thing is, it starts off whimsical and sarcastic. It's not mean, but then it quickly turns snide and unpleasant and attacking. That's where people have an issue. So when they went on Discord to try and talk about things, people legitimately raised their concerns and issues with it quite calmly, a lot of them. It wasn't too aggressive or anything. So there's one here, one up Chef Rip Etika at Perplamps, which is his username. "Yeah, but you've got to realize you aren't just talking directly to the 4chan/Redditors. That's a post to everyone who is/was interested in the project. I get the pre-frustration, but come on, man. Killed my enthusiasm for the game to see the blog being so condescending to all your fans." Totally get that, because he was a fan of the game, but the approach to it has kind of upset him a bit. Not necessarily the Epic thing, but the way he's been spoken to. Totally get that. Then Perplamps, the writer developer guy, comes back. "The frothing anger over literally a free game launcher you don't like is proof that the tone matched the target of that tone, and that target is not the audience of Ooblets, who is honestly above that stuff."
Yeah, the problem for me here is his target audience, right? This idea of target audience in his head. It's like he's gated his game. It's like people who think a certain way and who are angry about my decision aren't the target audience for my game, which is a bit naive considering that anyone can get upset about this, and he's generating this kind of anger and frustration in the community just by being a dick about stuff. Stop being a dick about it and just put your hands up, dude. You've made it balls up here.
It's very self-righteous. It's like, oh, if you're not open-minded enough to understand this, then you don't deserve to play our game. It's like, what the hell are you on about? And there's a similar thing later on from Giorno Garuda at Perplamps. "Also, per your blog post, you stated, I don't expect much of our uniquely lovely community to fit into this weird anti-Epic contingent. Not trying to strawman here, but does this mean you pretty much think people who are against the EGS practices should not fit into this community?" And then Perplamps comes back, "I think you definitely wouldn't like Ooblets in general. If you're not pro-Epic, you're not in favor of this game. You shouldn't be a fan of my game." It's really backwards and trying to tell people how to think and what they should like. One of the major grievances that's been raised on Twitter and than on Reddit is the fact that some people literally cannot use the Epic Game Store because they don't have their currency available in their country. Twitter user @RachVida, Steam is the only platform with payment facilities in my country without mentioning regional pricing. Now I won't be able to buy this game. Thanks, I guess. Good luck. And then again on the Discord, Deadly Penguin, what option do the people that literally can't buy the game now due to Epic not supporting their currency have? I wanted to buy the game, but now I'm 100% unable since I don't have the means to do so. Does not wanting to support Epic Games make me an entitled angry child just because my country isn't allowed to buy games in my own currency? Am I an enraged man baby due to the fact that even if I did buy it, it would cost me more than it should? Fully legitimate reason to be annoyed. Then Perplamps is very, very dismissive and full of shit, saying, you'll have to wait, I guess. Nobody owes you the game. He's not saying he's entitled to the game. He's not claiming that. He's saying, well, what am I supposed to do? I was going to because I wanted to support you. I like what you've been doing as a creator and all that, but I physically can't. Have you considered that, or have you just chosen to alienate people like me?
And this is a problem that he's got, this Perplamps dude, Ben, or whoever he is. He's characterizing any grievance, whether legitimate or not, as toxic entitlement. And that's wrong. That's completely wrong, right? Anyone who's got a grievance, anyone who disagrees with them, he's characterizing them as entitled. And that's bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. This is why you're getting so much shit, Ben. If you're listening, if you're watching, you probably aren't. You're probably hiding from the internet at this point.
Probably already typed that we're entitled.
This is it. This is the reason. It's your attitude, man. It's your attitude. It stinks. Nobody likes being talked down to. Nobody likes being dismissed. This is a legitimate concern, and there's no support there whatsoever from you, so don't expect any support back.
There are some people who are totally fine with it because they don't care about the blog post and they understand the reason for joining Epic is because it makes them financially stable. So someone on Twitter, @FlackO, screw folks who get mad here. Get paid. Don't shut down as a studio. You make good games, and the folks that are mad would be madder if you shut down tomorrow. They can handle having to buy from another store. And again, that's not really understanding the nuance of what's going on here. And saying you make good games is very premature. This is their first game and it's not out yet.
It addresses part of the issue, right? People who have an issue with them just signing exclusives, this kind of speaks to them. I mean, people who are angry just because it's an exclusive on Epic Store, the whole defense that we went through earlier was that it enables them to keep the doors open, the lights on, and people working, and them not from having to move in with their parents, right? That is the ultimate defense to that. And I feel like, yeah, that's fine, that's great, but don't be a dick about it. It doesn't matter where you sit with the whole Epic exclusivity thing. There's no way of justifying their behavior here. But like we said earlier, we're quite neutral on the Epic thing. Like it's competition in the marketplace. People might have their own opinions, they might completely disagree with us, and they have, and that's fine, right? If you're being a dick to your people who support you, you're going to get hate no matter what. So maybe don't be a dick, and you won't get the thousands of people hating. And then that's another point as well that we haven't touched on yet. It's not all right to be hateful towards people. Have your opinion, voice it in a right way. If this Ben's been a dick to your back, by all means be a dick to him, but don't target him and
we're not
harass
trying to
him.
justify any of that.
No, I mean, there's a line to your behavior, right? You've got to stick to what's acceptable and what isn't. And if you go beyond the line, as if you start
turns into harassment
and harassing people and making up fake screenshots, which apparently has happened. As much as we don't agree with the way that Ben is behaving, we do not condone anybody making stuff up and mischaracterizing them in return. It's one thing to raise an exception to the behavior, it's another thing entirely to be threatening to them and to lie and harass them. It's almost justifying his attitude in the first place. If you behave like this, then you're just acting in a way that he's already preempted. He's expecting people to be toxic and entitled and stuff like that. If you go out your way to target and harass these people and behave like that, then he feels justified in this attitude towards you, and that you're not representing the gaming community there, guys. You're just being total dicks in return.
Exactly.
So in response, Rebecca, who is the developer, again, don't harass these people, guys. Just let your feelings be known and leave it there, unless they obviously harass you, and then feel free to call them dickheads. She said the post about the Epic Games stuff was definitely not intended to be condescending, just honest. Something tells me that the people claiming our announcement was rude or condescending are not people who would ever bought Oblitz anyway. Again, I don't know, it's like, if you don't understand the way we think, then we don't want you to buy our game anyway. Again, a bit condescending.
And just because you don't believe it was condescending doesn't mean that it wasn't. If everyone else thinks it is, that's probably the case.
And she responded to that on Twitter. She said, I don't understand why people keep screen capping that thing I wrote. Yeah, when there's internet controversy, people come in droves to yell at you when they previously had no interest in you or your product, and that can be kind of frustrating to deal with. And she raises a good point here. The fact that there's so many more people aware of this situation now and who are chiming in, and people like us, I guess. People come in droves when you had previously had no interest in you and your product. We're reporting it. There's a lot of gamers out there. I mean, there's a Reddit thread with 13,000 votes or whatever. That frustrates them. I mean, I get that. People are piling on now, whereas previously they wouldn't have even heard of the game. But on the other side of the sword, there's so much more promotion for this game than ever would have been. There's 13,000 people, at least on Reddit. All right, they say they're never going to be interested in this game, whatever. People's feelings change. They've still got 1,100 people supporting them on Patreon. Yeah. This independent game has had more publicity from this news than loads and loads and loads of other independent games. And for every 5 people, they're going to see a net profit from it. So, I mean, it swings and roundabouts, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's true. I do think there is some truth in what she's saying about people probably weren't going to buy the game anyway, but it's not fair to just assume that's the case with everyone, because this message was sent, as I said, as the blog post to the fans, and you talked about it on Discord with the fans first. Your fans are upset. They're obviously the ones who were interested in the game in the first place.
Yeah, huge problem with the tone that they've taken towards all this, being condescending. It's just assuming that people are toxic, assuming that people feel entitled, and just characterizing anyone who raises any grievances. That's completely wrong. That should never be done. And I'm letting my voice be heard without being toxic. I'm using a rational argument to try and pick apart the way that they're behaving. That's how it should be done, guys. There's one other thing that people are comparing this to, and that's Ninja. I don't know if you've heard of this news recently, but Ninja, one of the biggest Twitch streamers ever, he joined the rival Mixer on August the 1st and signed an exclusivity deal with them. It's again another exclusivity deal, and because the word exclusivity is in the headline of this story, people are comparing the two and saying, how come Ninja can do it and you're out with that? But when it comes to Epic Game Store, it's bollocks. It's that kind of sentiment, right? So Rami Ismail tweeted about this. He's an very outspoken dev from Vlambeer. He says, Ninja does the thing. Very smart, sensible business decision. Can't find anything wrong with in encouraging competition. Developer does the same thing. Fuck this anti-consumer shit. Why do developers hate their audience? And another tweet in support that same kind of sentiment, Justin Davis, senior manager IGN, tweeted, Ninja runs Mixer. Man, I don't like it, but I understand it. I respect the hustle. Get that paper. $. Small game dev signs with Epic Game Store. I'm calling the cops. This is illegal. FBI, you're a sellout. Sign this boycott petition. Anti-consumer. And then Ooblets tweet themselves, the Ooblets game official Twitter account. Anyone hear about Ninja with shifty eyes?
Yeah.
Is this a legitimate comparison? Does this work in terms of just because it's exclusivity thing? There's more to it, right?
More to this specific case than just exclusivity. Briefly touch on it. I think Ninja going to Mixer, great idea. Why not? He's not losing anything. Fans will be upset, but he has no obligation to do anything. That's fine. Part of the major issue on this case isn't the Epic Game Store stuff. It's the way they've spoken to their fans.
Yeah, definitely. Entirely, that is the problem. Buying exclusivity or getting exclusivity from Epic Game Store, I've no problem with that, right? This is business. Business is business. It all depends on the nuances. It all depends on what people have been promised. If there's things thrown in there like Shenmue thing where there's a Kickstarter, people have been promised it on one, that's where the trouble lies. That's where the grievances get raised. There's all this added baggage to this exclusivity deal that makes people entitled to get angry, right? And in this case, people are entitled to be angry because of the way they've been treated by these devs. And I don't blame them whatsoever to have the feelings that they do towards these devs. It's just how far you take that is my question. It's how far you've always got to rein it in.
Express your issues, but don't be the dick that he's been.
Rise above it, guys.
There's a weird little caveat that apparently needs to be said. You can say stuff, just don't be a dick about it. Apparently people need to be reminded. But anyway, that's all just some of our thoughts on this latest Epic Store controversy. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Make sure to leave a like, helps us out in the algorithm. If you do like what you see, maybe hit that subscribe button and the bell so you stay notified when we go live next. If you want to support the content we've been creating, go on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/prettygoodgaming, where we won't directly insult you. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.